Good morning. We have a lot to celebrate today. As you can see, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Marriott Center, and we're celebrating all of you. What a great occasion it is that we can all be together, not meeting virtually, but that we are together in person to celebrate the accomplishments of our chapters and to learn and to serve and learn from one another today and tomorrow. So we're grateful to have you here. There is a lot that we can talk about, and I want to just tell you some of the interesting things that have been happening and the work that's been going on in our chapters over the past year. And by the way, my name is Bybee, and I have the privilege of serving as the BYU Alumni President. We have over 72 of our chapters represented here at this chapter conference. That is the most we've ever had. I think in the past, we've had in the 50, 55 range, so the fact that we have at least 72 of our chapters here is huge. And over a third of you are here for the first time as chapter chairs. So we welcome you. And if you don't know the people sitting next to you, please introduce yourselves because they are probably new too. And we're all about learning each other's names and networking. So we want to welcome those of you that are here for the first time. So with our new summer graduates, we are an organization of 444,000 strong, something that we are very proud of. We had 52 true blue chapters in 2020, which is remarkable when you consider some of the challenges that we had. For an organization whose motto is connected for good, the challenges of the last 18 months have made that a little bit difficult. So we salute the 52 true blue chapters who found creative and unique and innovative ways to gather our alumni and to celebrate the spirit of the Y. We also awarded over $750,000, actually the number was $764,000, to 371 replenishment grant students. And I think that's a huge accomplishment. So we thank you for all of the work and the efforts that you have done to make a lot of these things happen. We also want to tell you about some new developments and some changes, and we are very happy to announce that Hillary Nielsen, Hillary, where are you? Will you stand up for us? Hillary Nielsen will be the president-elect of the Alumni Association. She will assume this role in 2023. If you've worked with Hillary, you know that she is smart and dedicated and creative. She graduated, excuse me, from BYU with a degree in molecular biology, and she has served as the chapter chair and both in the Des Moines area in Iowa, where she's from, and was also one of our regional chapter directors over the Midwest. So she and her husband, Jared, have 2 children. One of their sons is on a mission, and we are just so grateful to have Hillary as part of our team and serving in this new capacity, and I know that you will enjoy working and getting to know her. We also had to replace Hillary, and so Dr. Ken Blad, who was the chapter chair for the Omaha chapter, has accepted the role as the chapter director for the Midwest chapter. Unfortunately, Ken is not able to be here with us today, but we know that you will look forward to getting to know him and working with him. And at this point, could we just ask all of our board members to stand so that our chapters and representatives can know who you are? These people work tirelessly behind the scenes, and we are so grateful and appreciate all of your efforts. So, thank you for all that you do. I also wanted to thank some of the people that are working behind the scenes that are making this happen. That's our alumni relations staff. It is the Hinckley Center staff. It is our excellent dining service staff that are being taxed in many ways these days due to kind of the labor shortages and some of the supply chain issues that we're experiencing, and yet they do a remarkable job in delivering a great product for us. So please express your appreciation to them and appreciate any kindness and patience that we might need, but could we just give a round of applause? And could I ask our alumni staff, our Hinckley Center staff to stand? Are they here? Okay. All right. Thank you. I love the theme of our conference is unforgettable moments. And it's given me a chance to reflect on my own unforgettable moments when I was a student here at BYU. And there are many that stand out. Unfortunately, many of them were humbling academic moments, but there were also many spiritual experiences and funny and uplifting memories that helped to shape my character and the course of my life as a result of being a student here at BYU. I can really think of two very memorable moments that kind of gave me my why for being at BYU, that both happened when I was a freshman here within the first week and then within the first month when I was here. And I quickly just want to share those with you. I know all of you have your own unforgettable moments, but my very first one that I will never forget happened when I was here just for orientation in the very beginning. And at the time, the student government had a social office, and they had a group called Our Gang that just put activities together to bring people together so that if you didn't have roommates and people to hang out with, you could just come and meet people and have fun. So not knowing anybody, I went to what was going to be just a gathering on the quad with lots of activities and games as a way to get to meet some people. And as part of the games and the activities in this activity, they ended up having a pie eating contest. You know where this is going. They didn't know how many people to accommodate, so they just wanted to be very prepared for large crowds. And dining services had brought in those huge, you know what they are, those huge metal racks that you can stack all of your food on. So there were, off to the table where they were doing the pie eating contest, there were over on the side many, many silver long big racks full of cream pies, full-sized cream pies. I don't know exactly what happened and how it started, but shortly into the pie eating contest, a full-fledged pie fight broke out. Honest to goodness, it's like what happened in the movies. I've never seen anything like that before. By my recollection, there were probably 80 pies that were on those racks that suddenly started flying to everyone. And so, you know, the whipped cream and the banana cream and the coconut cream and the chocolate cream, they were everywhere. And it was just this massive pie fight. And I remember thinking, I will never be part of anything like this again in my life. But I was really struck by the good, okay, maybe not so clean fun, but all the instant bonding and the camaraderie and just the fun that took place as we gathered as total strangers in that beginning activity. As someone who had grown up in the mission field and had always been just one of a handful of students in my high school that were members of the church, I thought to myself, I am finally with my people. My second experience came a couple of weeks later when President Spencer W. Kimball came to give an address at BYU in honor of the 100th anniversary. Do the math. He was the prophet of my youth, and I was absolutely giddy with excitement that I was going to be able to go and hear the prophet speak. And in his second century address of Brigham Young University, which I think we'll be talking about throughout the conference, he reminded us of what a privilege it was to be at BYU. And he reminded us that we had a unique light here at BYU, and that we needed to take that into the world. And what I think was pressed upon my mind so strongly was that because of the privilege I had of being here, I had a unique responsibility to show the church's investment in me and to show that I could provide dividends for that investment through my service and dedication and the contributions that I would go forward to make in the world. And that was a lesson that came very strongly to me in my very first month here at BYU, and I have been grateful for that throughout my life. As I reflect on my BYU experiences, I am so grateful that I was able to have what President Kimball referred to as that bilingual education, that combination of spiritual and secular learning that really created the wholeness in my education, in my understanding of the world. And it also helped me understand who I wanted to be and helped me find some of the finest people and friends that I have had lifelong cherished relationships with. No doubt all of you have many unforgettable moments and have had your own experiences of understanding what is your why and why you are here today. As alumni leaders, we are privileged to be continuing this mission that was first instilled in us as students. We came here because we had a love of God, we wanted a pursuit of truth, and we wanted to serve mankind. We wanted to enter to learn and to go forth to serve. And because we love BYU and its unique mission, all of us here have willingly accepted an opportunity to engage our efforts to keep that spirit of the why fresh and vibrant in the lives of our fellow alumni. So to each and every one of you here, we just express our deep appreciation for your commitment and your actions to move this effort forward. We hope that over the next 2 days, as we celebrate our homecoming theme of Make Your Moment, that you will create some new moments here and some memories as we learn and share with each other. And we hope that as you spend time on campus and you're reflecting upon your own unforgettable moments, they will remind you of why we want to be loyal, strong, and true, and why we proudly wear the white and blue. So thank you for being here today, and we look forward to a really great conference. It is now my privilege. Thank you. It is now my privilege to introduce Michael Johanson, who is our Alumni Executive Director. Michael and his staff do an amazing job supporting our alumni efforts, and we are so grateful for all of his efforts and his inspired leadership. So we'll turn the time over to Michael now.
Let's give Karen another round of applause. Isn't she wonderful? It is an honor to be here with you today. 76 official chapters represented here. We had a few others coming in, but we knew that it was more than 72. 150 leaders. Wow, that is fantastic. It's great to be together. Thank you for being here. My job today is to introduce to you a dear friend in Jeff McClellan, who is the Director of Brand and Creative here on campus, and also our beloved President, Kevin J. Worthen. And I'm going to do that in the context of our theme of homecoming and our conference of moments. So Jeff doesn't know I'm going to do this, but years ago, he was the editor for BYU Magazine. And they have a call for articles from time to time. And I was just a recently graduated student, and it was a call to write about mentors. And I had a wonderful mentor during my student experience here at BYU in Joseph Ogden, who was working at the Marriott School of Business, where I worked in external relations. I thought I was a pretty good writer. I wrote this wonderful, glowing piece that I thought would for sure get its way into the magazine. Jeff sent me this very kind yet direct email back then saying, "We appreciate your contribution and we'll get back to you." I'm still waiting to hear back from Jeff, and certainly someday I hope to get into Y Magazine. So we look forward to hearing from Jeff in just a minute, and he'll be talking about our BYU Brand initiative and some really, really exciting things. I hope you pay attention to that. Second, President Kevin J. Worthen. Just 2 days ago in our opening ceremony for homecoming, as we finished and as he was taking the stand and he was introduced to address the campus community, I heard someone walk by and say, "That's my president." As the 13th president since 2014, there are about 210,000 students who can say, "That's my president." I'm glad to have President Worthen be my president. And we look forward to hearing from him in a moment as well. A lot of great things have happened in the Marriott Center, and we're celebrating 50 years. That was one of those moments that I just talked to you about. Another moment for me was when I graduated. If you graduated, you likely were in the Marriott Center. I wasn't going to be in the Marriott Center because by the time I graduated, I had 2 children. I was very busy. I was working a couple of jobs and just trying to make things happen. as many of you probably had a similar experience. And I didn't want to go. My parents were in Washington. My dad was feeling very ill. He was having some back pain, and he wasn't intending to come to my graduation. So I thought, I don't want to take time off of work to go to a graduation ceremony at the Marriott Center. I just don't have time for that. But my parents convinced me that I needed to do it because it was a singular experience to graduate from BYU. My dad had graduated as well, and I wanted him to be there. But I knew he couldn't be there because he wasn't feeling well. Ended up that pain was cancer, and 4 years later, his life ended very prematurely. But as I walked in, as they convinced me to go to graduation, I saw my parents who had made that trek from Washington to be in the Marriott Center and to celebrate that graduation. That moment is something that ties me to this place in a wonderful, wonderful way. I hope that as you walk past the Marriott Center, and I understand that parking may not be the most convenient thing for you this week at this conference, but it's intentional. As you walk past, as you park in the Marriott Center parking lot, and as you walk past that wonderful and beloved building, I hope that you remember those moments that tie you to this place. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for going forth to serve. Now, Jeff.
Thank you, Michael. I will regret that rejection letter for the rest of my life. Thank you. I am grateful to be here with you today and to talk a little bit about branding. We have been engaged in a brand project for the last few years, and we are moving forward, and we're excited about where we are. And so we want to give you a brief update on what we're doing and why we're doing it. But to introduce that, we want to start off by setting some foundational principles of branding that are helpful for all of us to understand, and we're going to do so in the form of a quiz, because this is school. And so I have a few questions I'm going to show on screen, and if you have the right answer, you just shout it out, and I have 4 lovely assistants with prizes that they will give you if you give the right answer. So the first, I'm going to show on screen either some slogans or some logos, and you have to tell me what they match. And so here you go. The first one is, what company wants to save you 15% or more? Oh boy, everybody knows that one. Okay, hats are coming, Okay, you're correct, Geico. That gecko wants to save you 15% or more, and we all know that, right? How about this one? What slogan goes with that symbol? Just do it is the correct answer. Good. Okay, just do it. Again, we know that one. We've heard that a couple of times, haven't we? Okay, now what is the ultimate driving machine? Okay, we got a few BMW drivers out here that know that one. Okay, this next one is a little trickier. Let's see if you know what slogan goes with that symbol. It's the Olympics. What is their slogan? Somebody said it over here in English. Bonus if you get it in Latin. She said higher, faster, stronger. In Latin, it is. Somebody said one of the words. Citius, Aldius, Fortius is the correct answer there. That one we don't know quite as well. But as you think about these brands that we've just shared on screen, there's a few lessons we can take from that help us as we think about principles of branding. So this is Branding 101. First of all, brand is more than logo. As you think about all of those brands that we've just talked about, they represent something. There's values, there's ideas, there's a product, there's a slogan, there's something else connected to that. Sometimes we talk about branding and our mind goes immediately to that symbol, right? And that's good, that can be helpful, but we have to remember that brand, that symbol represents something. Okay, so brand is more than logo, that's the first lesson. Second one, when I first got this job, I didn't know anything about branding. I found a marketing professor and I said, teach me about branding. The first thing he did is he asked me this question, who owns your brand? And I thought, President Worthen, I guess. And he said, no, not you. You don't own your brand. Your brand lives in the hearts and minds of your audiences. They own your brand. We don't dictate it. We don't control it. We can try to influence it, but they own our brand because they own their perception of us, and that perception is what matters. If you're Nike and you're trying to sell shoes to someone, what matters is what they think about you, not what you think about you. So we have to know what they think, and then we have to try to influence that. But, as we saw with all those brands, There's a lot of things that influence your perception of those brands. And your perception of that brand is probably different than my perception. One of these presentations I asked, what does the Olympic brand mean to you? And somebody said, international corruption. And well, that's not where my mind went, but I can see where you got that, right? So everybody has a different perception, and it's influenced by all sorts of things related to that brand. So you don't own your brand. Your brand is your reputation. And so you can't control it, but you can influence it. And a key way that you influence it is through repetition. You build reputation through repetition. And that we see with those logos. Over and over and over again, we've seen that Geico slogan, right? Or that Nike slogan, and that's why we know those things. So repetition is powerful and important. Repetition builds familiarity, which builds affinity, which builds loyalty. And that's where we want to get to. We want people who are loyal to the BYU brand, but first they have to recognize it. They have to be familiar with it. So repetition is really important. So with all those lessons in mind, one more question and one more chance to earn a hat. And our hat people are going to be really generous on this one. But here's the question. What is the BYU brand? Oh, good. What were you going to say? Okay, you guys are so good. I was going to try to mislead you. This is a trick question. You're going to say, oh, it's that one with the Y. Okay, but our first lesson is brand is not a logo, right? Brand is more than a logo. So anybody who said those kind of things gets a hat. Just give people hats. So, but this starts to illustrate a challenge that we have if we're trying to build repetition and familiarity, and we're communicating with 6 different logos, it's hard to build that kind of recognition, right? And that's just a symptom of the problem. And actually, if you look across campus, we've got more ways than that of representing BYU. All sorts of different colors and typefaces and symbols. And a lot of these are great logos that work really well and have good history. But as a university, if we're trying to build recognition and we're communicating in all these different ways, we're not really succeeding. And this is, again, just a symptom of the problem because brand is more than logo. And there's messaging that needs to be communicated as well. So you might be wondering, why do we care? Why does branding even matter at a place like BYU? Well, if you've paid attention to higher ed, you've seen that other colleges and universities have started to care a lot more about marketing and branding for a variety of reasons. And we care about those things too. But we believe branding matters here for another reason, and that is that we are different. You can't assume that what you know about another school applies to BYU. We have a different mission, a different character, a different purpose, as Karen has explained for us so well. So clarifying that mission is really important for people. Part of our role is to represent the church. It's to bring people to Jesus Christ through his church. We can't do that if people don't know who and what we represent, if they don't know our values, if they don't know our connection to the church. So branding is important to clarify that connection and those values. And finally, the general public are hiring our graduates. They're sitting on association boards and they make decisions of our professors that affect the ability of our professors to present at conferences or to collaborate on research. They affect the ability of our graduates to do the work that they need to do in life. They affect the ability of the church to succeed. So it matters to us what the general public thinks about us. If they feel more positively about BYU, they'll feel more positively about the church. They'll feel more likely to support and endorse what we're advocating. All of this is for the benefit of our students. We believe a stronger BYU brand will open doors for our students as they leave this place in all aspects of their lives. This is all to say that branding matters because our mission matters. We think that the world needs BYU. We have something special to offer the world. And for us to do that work well, we have to be really clear about branding. So our objective with branding is to magnify BYU's reputation in support of its mission. And by magnify, we mean we want more people to know more about BYU and to love us more. That's all we ask. We want more people loving us. And so that's our objective. And I want to share just briefly what we're doing in that effort. First of all, just the project timeline. President's Council approved this about 2 years ago, and we've been working on this project. It involved a lot of research, a lot of qualitative research as well as quantitative research, nearly 10,000 survey responses, everyone from prospective students to employment partners to general public who aren't members of the church, to alumni, faculty, staff, all these different audiences. We asked them, what do you think about BYU? To help us understand what are the actual perceptions of the university, and then how do we influence those perceptions to get our desired perception. So then in June, the President's Council approved us moving forward, and so we've been working this summer on rolling out and launching this. And there's a lot to that we don't have time to go into, but we're working across campus with visual identity and messaging and training people in what the message is and how to use it. Karen gave you a wonderful example today. She used the messaging. It was perfect. And that's what we want people to be doing. And we want to be training people on what the BYU message is. And I'm going to share that with you in just a minute. The other aspect of this, just briefly, is that this has now gotten the attention at CES, and the other BYU schools are going through the same process, which we think is wonderful. For us to define our brand effectively, the whole system needs to define the brand because we share the brand. So we need to define what is the shared BYU brand and how does each brand differ. Not better, not worse. How are we different, meeting unique needs for unique purposes? And how can we then educate the world about that as a shared system? So we're excited about where that will lead us, but that's step 2. Right now we're focused here on this campus and what we can do. So as I mentioned, messaging is core to all of that. And so I want to introduce the messaging with this guy that Karen already talked about, actually. This picture was taken that day that Karen was there in the Marriott Center and heard President Kimball talk. You're going to hear audio from his talk in 1975, and then you'll see words from his talk as well as from our messaging appearing on screen.
There are many ways in which BYU can tower above other universities, not simply because of the size of its student body or its beautiful campus, but because of the unique light that BYU can send forth into the educational world. The education on this campus deliberately and persistently concerns itself with education for eternity, not just for time. Your double heritage and dual concerns with the secular and the spiritual require you to be bilingual. As LDS scholars, you must speak with authority and excellence to your professional colleagues in the language of scholarship, and you must also be literate in the language of spiritual things. While the discovery of new knowledge must increase, there must always be a heavy and primary emphasis on transmitting knowledge, on the quality of teaching at BYU. Quality teaching is a tradition never to be abandoned. It includes a quality relationship between faculty and students. We do not want BYU ever to become an educational factory. It must concern itself with not only the dispensing of facts, but with the preparation of its students to take their place in society as thinking, thoughtful, and sensitive individuals who come here dedicated to the love of God, pursuit of truth, and service to mankind. We must do better in order to be better, and we must be better for the sake of the world. As previous first presidencies have said, and we say again to you, we expect not only hope, we expect that Brigham Young University will become a leader among the great universities of the world. To that expectation, I would add to become a unique university in all the world. Let the morality of the graduates of this university provide the music of hope for the inhabitants of this planet.
That last statement actually comes from his dedicatory prayer on the Carillon Bell Tower, which he gave immediately following that talk. I love that statement. Let the morality of the graduates of this university, that's you, provide the music of hope for the inhabitants of this planet. That inspires me in my work here at BYU. That's what I care about. This message is intended to reflect that vision that President Kimball outlined almost 50 years ago. This is the core narrative. There's the rest of it that you can see there. This builds upon the mission of the university. It's intended to communicate that mission in ways that we know will resonate with audiences based on the research that we've done. Building upon this core message are 4 additional messages. The first, about our faculty and staff, describes them as scholars respected in their fields. They're also mentors to undergraduate students and disciples of Jesus Christ. And that combination creates this really wonderful learning community where our students learn by study, by faith, and by experience in all aspects of their lives, not just academically, emphasizing that we care about the total development of our students as children of God. All of that leading then to what we hope for our alumni, where they come here, they grow and learn through their experiences, and then they go forth to serve, to make the world a better place with what they've gained on this campus. This together is the BYU brand. When we talk about branding at BYU in the future, I don't want anyone to be thinking of a logo. It's not about the logo. It's about this message. The logo is powerful only as it reflects this message. And that's what we're preaching across campus, and we're starting to see people catching that vision, and it's exciting. And we feel some momentum moving forward with that. And there will be various ways that you'll start to see this ripple out over the next year or so, and we don't have time to go into all of them, but let me just share one of them that you will see very soon. We are launching a nationwide marketing campaign for the university. The first one that we're aware of that we've perhaps ever done, to build the brand reputation of BYU. So this is the tagline that we're using for the benefit of the world. You can see it connected with our logo there. And then this will be a venue for telling stories from all across campus about how BYU helps the world and what we do and why we care about the world and its problems. We're excited. This will be a digital campaign. You'll start to see it in all the digital venues, your news sites and YouTube and all those kind of things, as well as at airports, targeting specific audiences that we are interested in changing their perceptions of the university. We're excited about where this will lead us and all the other efforts that we're doing with branding to, again, build the reputation of the university for the good of the university and for the accomplishment of our mission. I want to thank you for being representatives of that brand. You build the brand. In our research, we've seen that 79% of employment partners first came to know about BYU through alumni. You are key ambassadors for us, so thank you for what you do already. You embody the brand, and you do it so well. Thank you so much. We're grateful to be a part of this effort with you and look forward to seeing how it helps the university do its work better. Thank you.
Well, one thing that they teach lawyers is when you've won your case, you don't say anything else. They haven't taught that to university presidents yet. But thank you, Jeff, for that wonderful explanation of branding and the power of messaging and what we have to offer the world. And I want to thank Mike Roberts, who's been involved in that as well. There have been a number of them, but those two are clearly leading the charge on this. And so we're grateful to them. As Jeff said, this has been a multi-year and will continue to be a multi-year kind of experience that we have. And I'm trying now to sort of reformat mine to sort of fit the talking points, but we'll see how I do. Because we did this independently of this, but it did start off, and there's been a lot of talk recently on campus, starting probably about 7 or 8 months ago, about President Kimball's second century address. There's a whole variety of reasons why that might be such a popular topic. One is we are approaching in 2025 the sesquicentennial celebration of Brigham Young University, its 150th anniversary as an institution. That is midway through the second century. And in his first, when he gave this talk, President Kimball, who then was the president of the church, outlined his vision for what BYU would become in the second century of its existence, and we're halfway there. I also think it has a direct tie to the mission statement of the university, which was adopted 6 years after this talk, and there's a lot of threads that go in between those two. I think really the second century address was the foundation for what the mission statement that we've had for so long. And I want to start off with what Jeff said. You heard President Kimball say these words. This is at the end of the second century address, right before his dedicatory prayer. He says, as previous first presidencies have said, now that just, you read this as the president, so you're saying this is not President Kimball speaking for himself or others. He's talking for other first presidencies as well. We say again to you, we expect, we do not simply hope. Now again, think about this. This is not only President Kimball as the president of a church, previous first presidency have said, we expect, this is not a hope, we expect that Brigham Young University will become a leader among the great universities of the world. You saw some of that in the messaging. To that expectation, he said, I would add, become a unique university in all of the world. In that talk, he used the word unique 8 times. He used the term special 8 times. Really different from the rest of the world. And his message, it came through in various ways, but including this. Well, let me hesitate here for a second before I get to that. Sometimes we are unique in ways that stand out, and sometimes in unexpected ways that we are unique. So let me just share with you, this is Kaden Slovish, who is the quarterback at USC when they played here 2 years ago. He's on a radio show talking about his experience at BYU.
So my freshman year, we're playing at BYU. Is like Provo's a weird place.
Provo,
I heard
man.
it's like a Twilight Zone type.
Yeah, that's what
Bro,
you're saying. Like,
Provo's dope, man.
so you go in and like people are like smiling, like "Thank you for coming to play." And I'm like,
Okay, that's
so and we're like, "What?" And like they're like usually they heckle you, and like the people in the stadium are waiting there with like shower bag goodies for after your game, and I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "I hope you enjoy. Like, good luck to you guys." And I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Like too nice.
95% of the place isn't drinking. So you like,
Yeah.
I think that's almost more intimidating because you're going in there and usually like kids are heckling you or people are heckling you like, all right, they're just drunk. Every person in that stadium is sober heckling you. So then when they heckle at you or like they say stuff and they're like not cussing, they're like, Slovis, you stink. And you're like, they're right behind your bench and you're like, in the back of your mind, you're like, this dude's sober.
Now that is unique. And there is partial ways in which we want to be unique there. I'm not sure all of those ways, but the idea is that I want to convey with that is we're not trying to be unique just to be unique. Our goal is not just to be different from everybody else. It's really something that we have in mind that Jeff talked about, that is for the benefit of the world. President Kimball said this in the Second Century Address. Gospel methodology, concepts, and insights help us to do what the world cannot do in its own frame of reference. In some ways, the church educational system, in order to be unique in the years that lie ahead, may have to break with certain patterns of the educational establishment. When the world has lost its way on matters of principle, we have an obligation to point the way. It really is for the benefit of the world. And if we don't have anything to offer the world, there's no sense of being unique. It really is gospel methodology, concepts, and insights that make a difference. I'll refer back to some examples of that as we go along. So I thought here we might at the same time, and there may be celestial correlation going on, but there's less than maybe it meets the eye here as various things have converged together about the emphasis on the Second Century Address, the branding initiative, and our strategic plan. We adopted a strategic plan in 2025 for a 5-year strategic plan. Part of that was for accreditation purposes. Interestingly enough, that 2025 coincides with the sesquicentennial of Brigham Young University, the midway point through the second century, and they all build on each other. But I thought it might be interesting just to share with you that strategic plan and some of the things that we have accomplished so far and some of the things we still have to work on. This is, as I say, a strategic plan for 2020 to 2025, and there are 3 main strategic objectives. Number 1 is to ensure alignment with the university mission. That is, unless we're aligned with the mission statement, doing what the prophets have told us we're supposed to do, the rest of it doesn't matter. And alignment is one that we get pressures from externally, we get pressures internally from drift. We have to keep that alignment and make sure it stays there. Second is to enhance the educational experience of the students. Those 2 things go in order. Once you're aligned with the mission of the university, then we're in a better position to enhance the educational experience of the students. And finally, to expand enrollment. That is, to make this kind of unique university available for more students. And you'll be familiar, and I'll just go over at the end of this, about the enrollment cap that we've had and still have at the university. And I think we'll have some kind of enrollment cap for some time that is there. But we can, and we have permission from the board to expand that enrollment a little bit. So let me go through each one of these a little bit. First is to ensure alignment with the university mission. And the very first most important thing is mission-based hiring. Who we hire as faculty, who we hire as staff, who we hire as administrators, they stay a lot longer than the students do. And that really dictates, and probably the most important decisions that are made during any time at BYU is who they hire. And so we need to make sure that we're going to have mission-based hiring. I'm going to show you a little bit of a busy slide here. The essential characteristics we're looking for. This actually came from Shane Reese, who is the academic vice president, and at the annual university conference this year said, this is the criteria we're going to look for in faculty, but I think it applies to everyone. It is a bit busy there, but I'm going to highlight one in particular. That's number 4 there. At most institutions, excellence in teaching, scholarship, mentoring, and citizenship, you could find something like that in almost every university. Notice that it's not number 1. It's number 4. It's important, it's essential, but that's not where we're starting, because to get there, you start off with intentionality in building faith in Jesus Christ and testimony of his restored gospel among members of the BYU community. In order to do that, commitment to seek and be led by the Holy Ghost in all aspects of our university assignments, and student-centeredness above all other professional pursuits, and I'll go into some of those again. And you'll see the list that's down there and saying, from the very time we start a search committee for a faculty position, this is the criteria. And it goes all the way up through, and as many of you know, faculty candidates are interviewed by general authorities, so it's all the way up the line saying this is what we're looking for, and this is who we're going to hire. It's consistent with these essential characteristics. So the second thing, in addition to making sure there's mission-based hiring, is faith-based teaching and learning. That is, that's it. We're going to do things, again, a little differently. And President Kimball in his second century address made clear that doesn't mean we're just unique for unique's sake. He said you have to do what the world's doing and do it better than they're doing, and then you have to attend to things that they are not addressing, which is a pretty stiff challenge when you think about it. By faith-based teaching and learning, it is this idea that there is something with our students that we can share with them because we are affiliated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that they won't get anywhere else, and that those truths are important. President Kimball put it this way. He said, every professor and teacher in this institution should keep his or her subject matter bathed in the light and color of the restored gospel, and have all of his or her subject matter perfumed lightly with the spirit of the gospel. That is easier in some cases, in some disciplines, than others. It's easier in religious education, to use one obvious example, than it might be in physics or engineering or math. But in each one, and this started with Brigham Young, don't teach, he said, the alphabet or the multiplication tables without the Spirit of God, that we really do believe that that's an enhancement. President Kimball, in an earlier address that he referred to in the second century address, one address he gave 7 years earlier at BYU, gave an illustration of this, and he said, take a Michelangelo or a Shakespeare and give them knowledge of the plan of salvation and personal revelation, and then see what kind of works they produce. So that's BYU's challenge, is to produce your own Shakespeares, your own Miltons, your own Michelangelos, your own whoever, he said, every scholarly grace. And you do it by having faculty members who have an understanding of the plan of salvation and access to personal revelation, and the students as well. And that needs to happen in the class, to think, how do you make this happen? Maybe it's just because it's not every class that you're going to have a key gospel principle in, but it ought to be evident to them at the end of the day that faith makes a difference in terms of their learning experience. The third one is student-centered research and scholarship. This is one of the more intriguing ones and differentiates us from many institutions that do research. We do research, we're not at the same level as very high-intensive research institutions. We do a lot of research here. But we tell the faculty the end product are the students, not the discovery. That's really hard because the prestige in academia is to be on cutting edge, not only that, but to get as many of these as you can out there, and it's your own reputation, this is how it's grown. And sometimes undergraduates who are doing this research are not as well prepared as graduate students are. And that means sometimes you don't get things done quite as quickly. I use an analogy, those parents with teenage kids know, if you have a task you want to get done and you've got teenage boys as I think back on it, and you say, do I want to get this done quickly? I'm just going to do it myself. If I'm interested in their well-being, I'll take a little extra time and sort of figure that out. And that's what we're telling the faculty is students are the ones that we need to focus in on. That's why the student-centeredness is so important that's there. And finally, to promote a sense of belonging among all members of the campus community. Now this is one, and I'll spend just a little bit of time on the next one. You may have seen in this fall we announced a statement on belonging, and we are creating an Office of Belonging. We're in the process of hiring a new vice president for that. And it's at a time at which the country is looking at reconciling some of the injustices of the past, racial injustices, other kinds of things, and we need to be part of that. And again, thinking about gospel methodologies. we worked through a variety of counseling, including with the Board of Trustees, a statement that is our statement of belonging that starts off, we are united by our common primary identity as children of God and our commitment to the truths of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. Whereas many places start off this endeavor by talking about diversity, we want to talk about unity first because that's what makes a community. And those are powerful gospel truths that shape the rest of the things that we are going to do in this area. If you pay close attention, go back and read Elder Renlund's General Conference talk, you'll see some language. In fact, you'll see that quoted directly. We strive to create a community of belonging composed of students, faculty, staff, whose hearts are knit together in love. You'll notice there are scripture references with each one of those, or reference to the mission statement in some instances, which are shorthand for that. And then you can see the rest of it, including we value and embrace the variety of individual characteristics, life experiences and circumstances, perspectives, talents, and gifts of each member of the community, and the richness and strength they bring to our community. This is not saying, sort of we're all alike. That is not. We're all alike in terms of our love for God and his love for us, but we are individuals that probably came as individuals even before this mortal existence. And that's the way in which, the framework within which we're going to create this community of belonging. Okay, so now let's go quickly here. Enhance the educational experience of students. First is we're going to continue pursuing the Inspiring Learning Initiative, which we started 4 years ago. The idea is here, this is primarily to help enhance the student experience in terms of making students inspired to learn, that is, motivated deeply to learn, but also learning that leads to inspiration. And providing this for our students has been our primary fundraising goal. It's been very successful and has made a difference already. So just to give you an example, since 2017 when this was introduced, we had the first year 4,685 students who got inspiring learning experiences because of donations from you and others who have joined this cause. In that year, we spent $5.6 million. You'll see as we get to 2021, there was it should be 2020, 6,801, and $8.1 million. That's growing. What that means, again, is 6,000 of our students had an experience they probably would not have other had, either working in a lab as a teaching assistant, in an internship, in a study abroad, where they could have experiences in which they are learning not only by study and faith, but by experience, which, as the gospel teaches, is one of the purposes of mortality. Improve access to limited enrollment programs. Some of you will be familiar with the phenomenon that many students work really hard, finally get accepted to BYU, then they apply to the program they really want to be in, and they don't make it in. There's a limit, again, with resources that we have that we can do, but the idea is to improve access to limited enrollment programs. The Marriott School of Business said our goal is to have, by the end of the time we have expanded enrollment by 2025, we will have 15% more openings in our limited enrollment programs. Last year, they had 15% more. They met it the first year. It was 2 years ago. I guess it was last year. This year, they have 4% more than that additional 15%. Mechanical engineering is another one that's been limited enrollment. They have a plan in engineering whereby that will become an open enrollment. That is, they think they can accommodate all the students who have an interest in that. And there are other places who are working on that as well. Finally, the third one in enhancing is to continue to develop BYU Online. This is one where there's some confusion, where we're a little bit different. This is not an online degree program. We don't have any of those. BYU Idaho has some great ones, and students who that is their preference, or that's as much as they can their circumstances will allow. They have complete access to that great program. There's no need for us to duplicate it. But there is a need for us, for students who are here on our campus, for them to learn how to learn online, because that's the way people are learning now. And so we have tried to develop that. It also helps us with throughput. It helps with students with a little more flexibility. And to give you an idea, again, I think when we started this back in 2016, we had about 2,000 enrollments in BYU Online. Last year, this fall, because last year's an anomaly, everything was online last year. But this fall, we had over 25,000 enrollments in there. The number of courses has gone from 38 to 180. So that has been available for students to enhance their educational experience while they're here. And finally, to expand enrollment. And again, this was announced last year. Last year was the first year of what was a 5 or 6 year plan to continue the plan to expand enrollment up to 3,000 more student FTEs. The board agreed to that on the condition that without any additional church appropriation or increases in authorized square footage. It's a bit of a challenge. That's not as bad as it sounds because we can keep the tuition that these additional students will bring with them, and that generates a fair amount of funds. But it is, again, the board has been clear saying there's a cap on this place for a reason. And part of it is because of the subsidy the church provides. It costs the church every time we start adding more students. At most universities, what you do is you charge about 10 times what we charge, and then every student sort of becomes a profit center. And we're just flipped around the opposite way. But they recognize the benefit of this, and we've come up with a plan that we think will work in order to have that go from FTEs. Now, let me explain just a little bit about FTEs at the risk of boring people completely, but now that I'm going here. That is different from headcount. And really what that is the number of courses, credits, hours that are taken divided by 15. And as it turns out, not every student, in fact, not most students take 15 credit hours. And so as long as they're a little bit below that, the actual head count, so our official enrollment cap up until now has been 30,500. But our head count has been somewhere in the neighborhood of 33,000. What this authorizes do is go from 30,500 to increase that by 10%, which means 3,050. So it'd be 33,550 FTE. Okay, now I'm going to then go back over this again when you actually see the numbers. So you can see over the years, starting in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 was the first year of this expanded enrollment. You'll see there's numbers there, 30,600, 30,700, 30,600. If you're really carefully listening to what I said, the cap is 30,500. They give us, because this is a little bit of guesswork. We're pretty good, people in enrollment services are really good at this, because you don't know who's going to show up and how many classes they're going to take, but they get pretty close. So they give us 1% leeway, which is another 300. So the cap is 30,500. As long as we stay below 30,800, they say, just be careful. You go above that number, then they get really nervous. So you can see that we were about 30,600. Officially, we were 30,500. So you would expect under our plan the next year would be 31,000. That's 2020. That number's bigger than 31,000 by about 1,300. That's about year 3 or 4 of our intended 5 or 6 year plan. What happened was you had the disruption of COVID and missionaries coming home early that we had accepted for the fall of 2021, but they're here in 2020. You had more missionaries who, according to our numbers, would be deferring and going on a mission first, who said, no, I'm going to come to school first and see how this whole COVID thing shakes out, and then maybe go on a mission. So we went up to the board and said, we're a little accelerated in terms of the growth pattern we have. But again, the good news for us is there was additional tuition dollars coming with them because each of those were paying tuition. So we made it through and sort of thought we'll smooth this out. So what you see here now in 2021 is for this semester, 31,495, which is less than last year. Some of that's intentional because we want to sort of smooth that out. Some of it is, again, just some of the things, those who had deferred, who we thought would defer in 2020, after 1 year decided they would now defer in 2021, so they didn't come back. Our yield was a little lower than in the past. That is, students who we accepted, how many of them actually showed up was a little lower than it's been. And for part of them, as we talked with them, they're just tired of dealing with anything online. And if there's, and they just need a break in some ways. So we'll see how this goes. But interesting enough, if you start off with 30,500, our original goal, and in year 2, we should be at 31,500. So we're off by 5. Now it's gone up and down, and who knows what next year will bring, but we're still on that same trajectory. So that's the strategic plan. That's sort of the down in the details of the more aspirational kind of thing we're doing. But it all comes back to, again, President Kimball's second century address. 5 years after he gave that address, President Kimball spoke at then President Holland's inauguration in 1980. He finished that talk almost identically quoting what he had said in the second century address. But he changed things. He changed one word and then added one sentence. He said, as previous first presidencies have said, we say again to you, we expect, we do not merely hope that Brigham Young University will become a leader among the great universities of the world. word for word the same. To that expectation, I would add, remain a unique university in all the world. In his second century address, he said, become a unique university in all the world. Now, I don't know what happened in that 5-year difference, if he just a word choice or if he said, now you kind of got it, now the trick's going to be remaining that. And I think that's our challenge now. Then he added this sentence. Then, in the process of time, this truly will become the fully recognized university of the Lord, about which so much has been spoken in the past. That's why you'll see this in the branding about being different and maintaining our differences and having something to offer the world. Because as we remain a unique university focused in on the mission of the university and the things that we can accomplish, then all the prophecies that have talked about what this university can become will happen. They're not self-executing. We have to do our part. But the Lord is involved in this, and it's clear he sent a pretty consistent message through his leaders here. So thank you for your part in this. Thank you, and I hope you'll have a better sense of what you're involved in with this effort, because it really is the kind of effort that will really improve the world. The last sentence of the mission statement of the university says, we believe the earnest pursuit of this mission, this institutional mission, can have a great effect on the course of higher education and will greatly enlarge Brigham Young University's influence in a world we wish to improve. May we work toward that end is my prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.